You're listening to Second Cut. This is the podcast from the Film Magazine, where we talk about topics in film theory, criticism, history, whatever else we feel like. I'm Jacob, and I'm the one who is combing my imaginary pumpkin's hair just right off screen.
I'm Sam. I'm the one who needs his thinking cog wound before we start this.
I don't know. I'm Kieran. I'm the one who is really hoping a tornado is not going to come through his house anytime soon.
Ooh. Do y'all have tornadoes in the UK?
Occasionally we throw one into Birmingham, keep them on their toes, but that's about it. That was about, what, 15 years ago?
Yeah, I think probably the worst one we've had just resulted in a couple of chimneys falling off houses. You know, that was about, and some bins being blown onto the road. That was about it, really.
Okay.
Yeah, bins being blown onto the road are the kind of things that would actually make part of a BBC article. Damage.
I'm in the tornado alley that's in like the center of the country. Not as bad as Oklahoma, like in Twisters, or Kansas, like in this, but...
So have you ever experienced a tornado?
Not personally, just the sirens, and then them being in like places very close to me, but not, near me, just like the next town over or whatever.
And so you don't have a tornado shelter or anything?
No, what we were always told to do was get in the bathtub, stay away from windows, that kind of stuff. Like we see in The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy's going to get cut up by all that glass standing there.
Yep. Well, so this is like 85 years ago. They obviously didn't know that back then.
I wish I had just watched Twisters for this. That I would have had a better time than watching my movie.
Twisters is good.
So we are doing Wizard of Oz movies because Wicked is out. It's not like Barbie and Oppenheimer where it's been like awesome press coverage, but it's been a lot of memeable press coverage throughout.
Yeah.
Very interesting lead up.
Did it actually come out the same day as Gladiator 2? Because that was the original plan, wasn't it?
Because
it was going to be Wicked.
Yeah, it's in some territories, I think. I don't know for us.
By the way, I'm sick of corporations trying to do that, or people trying to pretend that corporations should do that. It happened once, and Saw Patrol was mildly funny.
Yeah, and it obviously only happened with Barbenheimer because they specifically shot Barbie on the same day as Oppenheimer to try and screw over Nolan, but it benefited them both somehow.
That's true, yeah. I mean, this obviously, not surprising considering it's one of the biggest musicals of all time that the film version is doing really well. I still don't understand kind of studio marketers kind of insisting on their big tentpole musical films making out like they're not musicals. You don't have any of the musical sequences in the trailer. You hear Defying Gravity, but you don't see her actually performing it or anything.
Because apparently people hate musicals, despite the fact that everyone goes to see a musical.
They all do well, yeah.
Well, what I heard people or read people complaining about more so was that it was not advertised as part one, and that people knew it was a musical that were going to see it. And I think that is kind of like, they reported they were shooting two at once or whatever, but general audiences should understand that this is part one. And I think they dropped the ball there.
Well, I remember going to see It, and right at the end it comes up with It, and then chapter 1, and a load of like 15-year-old girls go, "Wait, chapter 1? What is this?" And I'm just like, "Oh no!"
Oh, you sweet summer child.
Yes. At least you were spared half of the book. And at least you were initially spared chapter 2. Wicked at the moment is trending at 372 mil. 12th highest grosses so far of the year, beating Gladiator by about 50 mil.
Yeah.
And hilariously enough, it has got nearly 2 mil more than the one under it in the box office, which is, hilariously enough, Twisters. So it all comes full circle, or round in a spiral, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Sure.
Before we get into the movies, I don't know if you guys want to talk about your early experiences with Oz, or I have bits on the media rights and that sort of thing. So
go for it.
Yeah. Well, all these movies are weird because
Yes.
the Scarecrow in The Return to Oz looks nothing like the Scarecrow in the original. You've got all these disparate moments in the timeline. Wicked, which I've never seen the musical, I know nothing except like the trailer. It's in a completely different timeline to, at the very least, Oz the Great and Powerful, which is big Disney release movie. So it's
So is
just
it
kind
like
of
Halloween, but with like
Yeah,
Wizard
yeah.
of Oz?
It's kind of interesting to see that basically now we've had 4 Oz movies, or 4 like big major tentpole Oz movies. 2 of them been Disney, 2 of them been Warner Brothers.
yeah. And it's a good thing Wicked's doing better than Poor Return, which we'll talk about that. But yeah, so I was looking into, well, why is all this timeline stuff so weird? Why is the Wicked Witch's name different in this movie, Return to Oz versus whatever, the Wicked? That's all very confusing to me. And one person, by the way, had a fun explanation for that, which was that there was a witch named Glinda. The wizard, who's played by James Franco, still gets married and has a kid with whoever that happens with. That kid becomes Galinda, but people in Oz are stupid and whimsical, and they call her Glinda, which means that there was just a new Wicked Witch that is like his daughter. And I don't know if that's a spoiler or whatever. I read it on the Wicked subreddit. So that fan theory ties it all together. But
And I should.
I mean, Wicked the novel changed quite a bit of the mythology, didn't it? I mean, obviously, it's one of the first one of these prominent things of you kind of kind of dressing the balance and kind of retelling, I mean, it's it's what Disney's been doing the past 20 years, hasn't it? Really? Oh, you thought you knew this story? Well, guess what? We're going to tell it to you again, but changed just enough so we can say, we got you.
What, the villain actually started off good, normally a female villain, but they were abused into becoming evil, and therefore they just misunderstood.
Yeah, either abused or scorned. Yeah,
justified
they're not actually a
dog murder.
psychopath. Yeah, it's like they're not actually a psychopath. They're just like misunderstood. Yeah, we will get to that when we get to Oz the Great and Powerful. I have things to say.
We need to do misunderstood villain movies probably, because I love like watching Cruella. But then I have thoughts on it. So
and we can call the episode "Magneto Was Right."
Well, Magneto, Thanos was right too. I mean, anyway, so yeah, my thought was like, okay, I've never really experienced Oz. What is happening here? And I went and looked up, okay, let's see who owns the rights first, because obviously Prime owns all the MGM stuff. I didn't watch this movie on Prime. I watched it on Max here. Well, by the way, what did y'all have to stream it on elsewhere?
I've got. So we talk about the original.
Yeah, 39.
I've got it on Blu-ray. So I didn't stream on anything.
I've got it on DVD. Yeah, I've got a double disc.
Nice. Okay, I went to
Picked
Max
up a couple of weeks ago for £1.50.
But hang on, still live searching. Is it on any streaming service in the UK at the moment?
Well, and
Probably not.
what's kind of a bummer is that it showed like the TV version, because through my research, I think that's what HBO has the rights to, or Warner Brothers.
It's on the BFI player apparently.
Oh, I'm so jealous of the BFI player. I get Max, but you guys get that. So, yeah, what's with all this disparate stuff? Warner Brothers has the exclusive TV media rights. They might have the DVD distribution rights and therefore streaming rights, because in 1997, MGM released one. In 99, Warner Brothers released a 60th anniversary. I couldn't find anything official on a sale, but it appears that Warner Brothers is the current 1939 film media rights owner.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is released by Warner Brothers.
Do you have a year?
DVD. 2005.
Yeah.
Says here. Along with a load of collections and stuff. But then, like, at least one of the documentaries on here that I've watched the first half of, which is kind of memoirs of all the cast and crew that I think they did for like the 50th anniversary. It starts with the TCM logo, and then you watch the actual film, and it starts with the MGM logo, but it's all distributed by Warner Brothers. It's like, what the hell is going on?
Were y'all's widescreen, by the way, or were they like box aspect ratio for the whole movie?
Well, it changes, doesn't it? Which is what
mine did not.
Very powerful does.
Yeah, but I've vaguely got the idea that in the original when she arrives at Arsenal, does the color change, but I think the screen widens. I may be wrong there, but
my version didn't, and I don't know if that's what makes me think I maybe saw the TV version, which is maybe they own the home media version to release on HBO or something like that.
I mean, fun enough, my first memories of this were probably watching on TV. I think. I mean, my both parents are big musical fans, so I saw this quite early. But I don't think we ever may have had it on VHS or something. But I think generally, if we were watching it, it was happened to be on TV in the afternoon, and we just watched it. But I don't know who kind of handled distribution internationally. But.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the randomly uploaded clips of it on YouTube. I don't think it changes aspect ratio. When she opens the door.
Yeah, I might be misremembering.
I think it's just the color that changes. To be honest, that was a technical marvel on its own. I think trying to add in an aspect ratio.
But do you think it's almost like a trick, just like to achieve the shot, it's a double kind of painted in like sepia tones, and then the yarn kind of cuts. Do you think it's like a trick with the framing as well? It kind of the door makes it look like a narrower field of view or something, possibly.
Yeah,
possibly.
As she like steps out.
Yeah, it's a beautiful shot. Like it really is just a work of absolute. Like, because obviously Technicolor had only been around a couple of years.
We'll get to that later. let's save some of that.
I was going to say,
but real quick, finishing this, that's the movie rights. You cannot use anything exclusive to that movie. You can't use the lion. You can't use the scarecrow, the Tin Man, their looks, their design. But everything in the book is public domain, and that's why Wicked and Disney...
I mean, even down to the specific shade of green that the witch is, that's why... That's why she has to look different in both Wicked and in Oz the Great and Powerful.
Nice, yeah.
It's like Disney owns the specific rights to Winnie the Pooh, but only Disney's in the red top. Yeah, only Disney's characterization, which is how they've been able to do like Blood and Honey and change it up, because they can argue it's still Winnie the Pooh, but it's not Disney's iteration of it. And also, I think one of the reasons why Brian Fuller, it was Brian Fuller that did Hannibal, wasn't it? Couldn't do Silence of the Lambs, is that they owned the rights to everything else, but not to the Silence of the Lambs novel. So all the others they could do, but they couldn't do Silence of the Lambs. It's just like,
I did always find it interesting with that they did find a way to use the mask, basically the same mask, but like make it like transparent.
Yeah, and get around the copyright issues. Welcome to the world of copyright, media copyright. If anybody wants to earn some money, that's where to go into.
What I learned is that this wasn't really probably a problem back in the Return to Oz era as significantly, because the only court case I can find is from 2011 when Warner Bros. Sued a company called Avila, who's trying to sell nostalgia merchandise of that, Gone with the Wind and Tom and Jerry. And the court was like, yeah, you can't sell Wizard of Oz stuff. No more posters or lobby cards for the Wizard of Oz. So there you go. Yeah. We have court evidence, and you have to take everything from the book. You could draw the Tin Man on the cover of the book and sell that, but not the movie. So there you go.
And that would be the original book.
Yes.
The original thing.
Anything before 1923 or 24.
I was going to say, new editions and new commissioned paintings for the cover of a new version of The Wizard of Oz you would not be able to do. It's terrifying in concept of who owns rights for stuff.
All right.
Music rights are even worse.
Kieran, do you want to talk about Technicolor in the original now?
Yeah, I was just going to say it looks absolutely gorgeous. Why could we not go back to this kind of look? I mean, when everything just looks like, oh, should we have something yellow? What shade do we want? Yellow. Yeah. What shade of red do we want? No, we just want red. Yeah, you know when you're in like primary school, Sam will probably. I don't know if they had it in the US, but for kind of painting, what we had like the paint blocks that you just kind of
Yes.
wet and you got the paint off from them, and they came in blocks of 6.
Yeah.
It's just like that. There was no kind of different shades. You just had red or yellow or green or blue, sometimes black, and then like a random slot somewhere else, and that was it. And this is what it look. I mean, look at my cover. It's just red, yellow, green, blue. That's it. That's all we've got, and it looks glorious, and I love it. And I think we should all go back to that. Just kind of random stuff, because I mean, Technicolor. When did that kick in? Like, I want to say 32, 33, 34? They invented the technology?
They invented two strip further back.
You had two strip late 20s, early 30s, but that was kind of short lived, and then it was outmoded by the middle of the decade, I think.
It was like they used beam splitters behind the lens that had red and green filters.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, they started using subtractive color with like cyan and stuff.
Yeah. And then like the big kind of obviously film to kind of bring it mainstream, to make it into event. Obviously with this one, Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind, both interestingly, with the same director involved.
Yeah, and the same year. It's like so it's like they kind of had it around, but it wasn't really a massive thing. And then they went.
They'll never use color. That's no future in that. See?
Yeah. It's like they didn't just go, let's do this in color. They went, let's be clever about how we do the color. Let's not only have it so when she arrives in Oz, everything's in color. Let's have it so inside the house that she lands in is still in black and white. And then she opens the door and outside is in this bright Technicolor, like, not saturated, but just like proper bright stuff. And the inside is still in the sepia. And it's, I used to think that the best like door opening ever was the Searchers, the start of the Searchers, because then you mirror it the close. Yeah. I'm reconsidering. I think this might be the best example of a door opening just in film.
I think it is. Yeah.
It's.
I did have this down as one of my 10 greatest films of all time, just because I think it's just so unfathomably kind of influential. It's just I think it's underestimated just how much it changed film as a medium, and how you stage a musical on screen, but also how like a fantasy story is told, cinematically. It's just so.
Well, I mean, I don't know if this is an actual fact. I don't know how you measure it, but it's commonly attributed that this is the most seen film in history.
Yeah.
They reckon it's by like 1 billion people. I don't know how you measure that. Over the years, obviously, some people have died and stuff like that. But the most seen film ever, probably from numerous reruns on TV.
Yeah, I did see an open air screening of this a few years ago. Which I watched outside, like in the grounds of like in London. You have I think it's Somerset House. It's this big old kind of big old building where they they do exhibitions and events and things. But in the grounds of that, basically, it's like the big. I think it was like a double bill of Labyrinth and Wizard of Oz.
Wow.
Theme being escaping to like fantasy worlds and stuff. But I'm not kidding. It's my sound making up. But seriously, in the tornado scene, the wind started to get up a bit outside. it was quite something.
Yeah, picked it at just the right time. There's something pathetic fallacy. I'm not sure how we describe that. It's. Do we need to? I feel like we don't need to do like a description of what happens in the Wizard of Oz.
Do it quickly.
Of Oz.
Do a brief one.
Dorothy from really bleak Kansas gets whipped up in a storm and arrives.
AKA Kansas, by the way.
Yeah. Sounds like the bit in Zombieland. I'm in Garland, Texas. It looks like zombies came through here, but that's just Garland. But yeah, she arrives in the Technicolor world of Oz, having killed one witch, and everyone thinks she's come here to save them. The Wicked Witch of the West is trying to get the ruby slippers off her, which she's nicked off the Wicked Witch of the East. And the only person who can get her back home is the Wizard of Oz, who lives in the Emerald City, because obviously we've got to show off our Technicolor. So she goes along. She meets some friends because we have to have our friends to join us on an adventure, along with her dog Toto. She meets a scarecrow with no brains. She meets a tin man with no heart. She meets a lion with no courage. You get to the Emerald City, and the Wizard of Oz says that in order for me to get you home, you must kill the Wicked Witch of the West. So they do, and they get attacked by the evil witch's flying monkeys. They kill the Wicked Witch after a big chase scene that's very much a kind of allegory for the rise of Nazism at the moment. And then they go back, and the wizard's like, "Oh, damn! Didn't think he'd actually do that." And it's revealed he's just like a guy behind a curtain, like making it look like everything. And he goes and gives them all their rewards and manages to get Dorothy back home again by her wishing.
What you needed was inside you all along.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's the friends we made along the way.
So, by the way, is this film saying then that if we were to just kill Hitler, then all the Nazis would be like, "Yay, Hitler's dead. We're no longer bad."
Yeah.
Ding dong, Hitler's dead.
Yes.
Oh my.
I mean,
I don't know if that's how that works.
I mean, you do have a kind of fascistic evil witch with an army of marching soldiers, and you know, she's all in black, and they've got the eagle as well, right next to her in the palace.
Yeah. You get the soldiers come marching outside the castle as well, don't you?
With their kind of weirdly ominous song. I haven't seen this. I have. Well, that's our copyright strike. I haven't seen this in like 10, 15 years. Must be 15. I don't think it was at university when I saw it.
I haven't seen it since I was a very small child.
Yeah. So there's so much I'd forgotten, like that song I've heard in passing, and I'm like, oh my god, that's from here! Like, and just the random, like, odd lines that are thrown away in here that I got. Possibly the best one is when Dorothy's going to the Scarecrow, and he's like, I haven't got a brain. She goes, well, how do you talk if you don't have a brain? He goes, it seems to me that people without brains do an awful lot of talking.
There's another issue I had with the movie where him and the wizard are both like, there are a lot of smart people that are actually stupid. And I'm like, why is this like anti-education all of a sudden?
There are good questions about that. Yeah, it's... I forgot how good a music... I mean, I knew there were musical numbers in it, but the one I remember is, like, we're off to see the wizard, and I kind of forgot that this is where Over the Rainbow came from. I obviously knew the song, but I forgot this is where...
Which amazingly, they were going to cut originally.
They did cut it after, like, a second screening, because they thought it took up too much time, and they also thought that it was very bad form to have one of their major stars singing a number in a barn, essentially. And then they decided, okay, no, we need to re-add this.
No, there are some absolute bangers in this. I don't think there's a particular dud amongst them. Well, maybe the Lions song. I mean, that's a bit.
It's really incredible how much of this permeates culture. Like the songs, the characters. They're sort of like there's a Taylor Swift line where she says, "The coward thought he was a lion," and like just. It's everywhere, and you don't think about it. I like that you kind of pointed out you forgot that that's where this is from. Like, me too.
Yeah.
I mean, there's obviously bits I remember. I think the last time I had anything to do with Oz, I read the book for a first year essay because I was doing it on The Matrix. And you've got a couple of references to Wizard of Oz. And I'm like, oh, this is a great excuse to read The Wizard of Oz.
Well, the Wachowskis love referencing L. Frank Baum and Lewis Carroll, don't they? I mean, they're just sprinkled throughout their filmography, those references.
It just, if in doubt, they can put the two in and they'll do it, kind of thing. Yeah. I also kind of, I don't think I realised, because again, I watched it when I was a lot younger and wasn't kind of critical of films and stuff. Like, Julie Garland, that is one of the best bits of casting, I think, in cinema history.
Yeah.
Like, and in the nicest way, watching Return to Oz, the two portrayals of Dorothy, like,
I do still like Firuza Balk, just a different take. And I think she's a good child actor. I mean, very much, she's a lot younger than Judy Garland. She's 10.
And this is one of the things I was going to say. Yeah, Judy Garland's put in this when she's like 16, 17.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
comes out when
yeah,
she's 18. I
yeah,
don't know the exact dates. Um,
yeah,
and thinking Return to Oz, we'll get to it, it's like 11 or 12.
yeah.
And so essentially, Judy Garland is essentially not a child. She is technically, but has been going long enough and is just on the cusp of
I
adult.
mean, yeah, just on cusp, as you say. I mean, they do make her look more childlike. I mean, there are some quite nasty stories actually about basically having to corset her up, basically to make it a bit less obvious that she's becoming an adult.
Yeah. But I think that works. I mean, it's the standard thing that when you have like a teen slasher, you get like
Yeah,
late 20s, early 30-year-olds to play like
yeah,
16-year-olds.
yeah,
And there
yeah,
are issues with that, but I think one
mm,
of the good things is in the nicest way, you're more likely to get a
yeah,
good performance. It's not
yeah,
guaranteed, but as I said, with
yeah,
child actors, there's no middle ground. It's either great or
yeah,
awful
And there's
99%.
the
yeah,
laws around child acting too,
Oh yeah,
like
yeah,
hours and
I mean,
pay.
Judy Garland was still a child when she was there because did
yes,
she
yes,
win
that's,
the
yeah,
Oscar
yeah.
for like best child performance? I think it
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah, for
some
best, yeah, what do they call it? Yeah, best junior
juvenile
performance.
performance or
Yeah,
something like
juvenile,
that. Yeah, but she was
yeah,
right on that cusp
yeah,
of adulthood, which meant that she'd got the
yeah,
experience of acting and
yeah,
performing on Broadway and things
yeah,
like that, which meant it wasn't essentially directing a
yeah.
child; you were directing a professional actress.
And just got this like such natural charisma. I mean, she's like an instant star in this,
Yeah,
and I just love the moments where it's so obvious that she's caught. She's really trying not to laugh. She's
yeah,
like playing with hair or rubbing her nose. So you can tell she's just trying to hold back a laugh.
yeah. Because
That's
they
kind of
were going to
it's just so charming.
yeah, because the original intention was to try and cast Shirley Temple as
Yeah,
as Dorothy, who was
yeah,
like 10 or 11 at the time,
yeah,
which would work for the age of the character.
yeah,
But again,
mm,
I th-
yeah,
in order to pass it off, Judy Garland has that maturity
yeah,
in order to act it well in the nicest way,
yeah,
and you can kind of
yeah.
downgrade the looks. And when the acting is there, you can believe that she's the child, or a
Mm.
lot younger than she actually
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Do you have anything there about some of the horror stories like during this production? I mean, it wasn't exactly smooth sailing as I don't think as any of
No.
these were really, but
Yeah, Tin Man wasn't who was originally meant to be the Tin Man. I can't remember who was the original actor. Let me see if I
yeah.
can find it out. I watched
But yeah, but
a
he has
documentary.
he has a bad allergic reaction to his
Yeah,
sort of the
essentially the
paint
original
and stuff.
actor who I have forgotten now, and I'm sure Jacob is looking
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
They kind of did him up and were starting to work with him, and they put I think it was like aluminium powder or something like
yeah,
that as part
yeah,
of the makeup, and that was getting into his lungs. And apparently one day he went to breathe and didn't.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I was kind of rushed into
mm,
hospital. Reckoned
yeah,
he'd be out for like 4 months, and in the
yeah,
meantime, they'd
yeah,
changed the actor
yeah,
to who we have now.
yeah,
This Jack Haley,
yeah,
isn't it? Is it Jack Haley?
yeah, yeah.
And
Think so.
apparently they'd surreptitiously kind of changed the makeup. So
Yeah.
that there was less chance they were going to die as a result of it. There's that, and then there's Margaret Hamilton
Kind of getting
disappearing.
her,
Uh,
getting her third degree burns when a trap door didn't work.
yeah, essentially, when she disappears in the kind of her first scene, a load of smoke comes out. She had to disappear behind it. The trap door opens and she vanishes.
Yeah,
The trap door didn't open for a while, as it was
yeah,
meant to. She eventually comes through, but then she goes, "There's something weird. Something's going on with my face." She's
mm,
suddenly rushed away
yeah,
by one of the makeup artists. The makeup artist
yeah,
manages to rip it off and goes,
yeah,
"Yeah, there was copper in your makeup. If I'd have left it on, it
yeah,
would have continued to eat through your face." And she
yeah.
had like second
But yeah,
degree
yeah, yeah.
burns.
Basically, her makeup boiled because of
Yeah.
like, the fire effects, pyrotechnics. Yeah,
Well,
It's one of those when they were pushing the boundaries, and sometimes
yeah,
this happens where you push
yeah,
too far, you know?
yeah. There's also stuff out like with the Munchkins, obviously, like with little people forms of the time that weren't particularly valued. As
Yeah.
kind of. I mean, I think there's. I don't know if it's apocryphal or not, but I think there's a horrible kind of rumor that the Munchkins may have been paid less than Toto.
oh God.
Just,
That that
yeah,
that sounds about right.
Yeah, for the period.
And apparently, one of the kind of historians working on the Wizard of Oz reckons that apparently there are only 2 Munchkins that have their original voices on there.
Yeah.
A lot of them were dubbed over. It's
By
right
the
at
same 2 people.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Welcome to the 1930s Hollywood.
Yeah.
Not much
they-
has changed.
They apparently
Well, they live
recorded it
underwater now.
slower and then sped it up in like post.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous. But I mean, there is some stuff that's really nice. Like
There's a
the
lot
map.
that's really nice.
Yeah, but I mean, like the map paintings, which are kind of groundbreaking as well at the time. I mean, it was done before, but they were doing weird things like with when you see the field of poppies and the Emerald City in the background.
Yeah.
You could just do it in matte painting, but they'd actually poked holes in the board so they could shine lights through to make the Emerald City sparkle a little bit.
Yeah, and like that use of like matte paintings and even like miniatures and things, for like the Witch's Castle and for bits of the Emerald City and stuff. Just very old-fashioned techniques and in-camera tricks, but kind of done with like care and attention. I mean, I'm sure. Again, I've got no evidence of this. I don't know if he's ever mentioned it in interviews, but I'm sure Peter Jackson must have been influenced by this for his approach to Lord of the Rings. It's because this is like a fantasy epic essentially, but just done as a musical.
And
The songs are great.
and
Even half of them are cut.
at every bit of those backgrounds, they blend in really well. Like when I think about the art that they had to do in Caligari, like nearly 20 years prior, those look like paintings, and because of the blending of all those different techniques, they do come through really seamless. It's a great looking film.
I was going to say the mats for this, bearing in mind we are watching this 85 years later, so we are going to be able to recognize a painting background when we see it. Like we're not saying that oh my god, that really goes on for miles. No, that's not the point. But the ability to get the mats to blend with the real thing, a lot of the time it's just kind of a thing where you go, I can't work out where the transition is, or you go, it's just good enough that with the rest of the stuff going on the soundstage, I can kind of forget that it's a matte. And I think when 85 years later you can tell yourself, I'm forgetting that's a matte painting, that's hellish good going. Especially when it's not like something like Star Wars, the original trilogy, which used quite a few mattes, Indiana Jones and stuff like that, where they had the techniques and they had it down to a fine art at that point. This is probably the first 10-15 years of doing mattes, and some of the first in color as well, so you can't just blur it and kind of go it's smudgy in black and white, nobody will notice. No, you can see the color now. The leeway of getting away with it is severely reducing.
Like, other than the aspect ratio, you could have told me this movie was made in the 50s and I'd believe you. Like, it's just it's so high quality looking. And like, that's the Technicolor, it's the sets, the performances are all really good. Like,
I was gonna say, did Margaret Hamilton get nommed for this?
I don't think so, but I'd have to check.
If
I
not,
don't think
why
so.
the hell not? Because
It's one of the all-time great kind of villain performances, and apparently she was really, as a lot of villain performers are, they're lovely people in real life, and she used to get quite, because she loved children, she used to get quite upset how scared all children were of her after this. Even when she wasn't out in the costume, it's just
as we'll discuss later, it's the heroes you have to worry about.
And obviously she did a load of stuff after this as well. So she was even just like much later on, she appears in 13 Ghosts and stuff like that, which is quite fun. And as Aunt M in the animated Journey Back to Oz, apparently, as Aunt M. So she returned to it in a new kind of way, and she was in The Invisible Woman, so she had like a load of stuff. But regardless of anything else she's done, she will be known for playing the witch, and she does it so well. I mean. I think now, regardless of any witches, which is Macbeth, and all that kind of thing, when you think of a witch, this is who you think of. This is it.
Because it hadn't really been come up with yet. Do we think that Luke had an aunt and uncle because of this movie?
Oh, that's yeah, possibly. Yeah.
Because every time she's going Annie M, I keep hearing Uncle Owen, Aunt Beru.
And Peru. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
and then
could
get
be,
whisked
could be.
away to what are you suggesting, the lightsaber as the ruby slippers?
Ooh, he walks
Yeah,
through
sure.
the room of his hut.
Yeah.
What goes back and finds more smoked, and that's the Wicked Witch of the East. No, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, they're both like the hero's journey, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yep.
They are literally kind of cross over the threshold in the most obvious way. You know, you can slot it on very, very easily. Meet your friends, tricksters, you know, the lot. Although the trickster in this is probably the Wizard of Oz, hilariously enough, to give the final challenge.
I
Can we
think
just say the flying monkeys are still terrifying?
Yeah.
And like
If you-
Scarecrow
if you-
getting lit on fire, like is
Yeah.
still like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see why I was scared of the monkeys and the witch as a kid. That cackle is, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's like if you're like, you know, it's like if I ever have kids, it's or become like an uncle or something like that. You know, it's like, oh, watch the classic films. You know, oh, nice childhood film, Wizard of Oz. You put that in front of a 5-year-old, they're going to be terrified out of their minds. Like,
Yeah.
it's the sort of stuff that you're
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
there are some stuff that a kid shouldn't see, and Wizard of Oz is
I
one of them.
Yeah, I think both Margaret Hamilton in this and the evil queen in Snow White, they're probably the two most terrifying witches on film.
Yeah, it's just it's not good. It really, it's terrifying. But that's kind of the whole point, is that the stories are just like really tinged with darkness, and a lot of kids' films are, and kids' stories are, because they're having to traverse kind of the facts of life, and they do it in a childish way, but they're also being written by adults. So things are going to be really dark without kind of you noticing.
Yeah. And L. Frank Baum, you know, for all of kind of his fancy mythology, to make it like a society where the women are the strongest kind of characters in it, you know, it's quite something for the. Well, he wrote, you know, he was writing his books, you know, the early 1900s, wasn't he? You know,
And the man is a con man.
And
Yeah,
Well, the first one was 99, I want to say. I think.
yeah.
I think it was 1900.
Possibly.
So I found out from the second one that the Dorothy stuff is in the 1800s. I did not know that, but it makes sense based on the time period of the book's publishing. But
May 17th, 1900, yeah. So it would have been written for years before that.
But Sam, that's I was thinking the same thing. Like, one reason I don't like the third one we watched is it takes that sort of feminist, not really, but maybe, I don't know. It's not like intending to do that, I'm sure, in a sense, because it's an adaptation.
Yeah.
But it implicitly in this film, there's like sort of feminism to it that is not present.
Yeah, and all the men are kind of, even if they're in positions of power, they're in effect sure they're only there through, you know, trickery and deceits, you know.
Yeah, it's the thing of why the hell does Dorothy want to go back to Kansas so badly in this bleak, dreary sepia world with kind of aunts and uncles that don't really care that much. You know, in Oz, you've got flying monkeys, you've got talking trees that give you apples, you've got an emerald city and gay lions. It's like, why the hell would you want to go? Why the hell would you want to go back to dreary Kansas when you've got this stuff, you know?
Well, we should also point out in this movie, it was all a dream, which is different in the other ones.
Yes.
In most Oz media.
And I mean, I that is the same in the book, isn't it? That it was all a dream. I think.
I think that becomes. I think that's possibly the case for the first one, but I think as the mythology goes on, I think a bit like with Narnia, I think it becomes explicit. No, this is actually happening. You know, it wasn't.
From what I read, he intended it to be a real place, but that was from reading fan stuff.
Yeah.
She doesn't wake up in her bed. She kind of falls back into the grass and gets up. And originally they were silver slippers. in the book.
Yes.
Ruby for this again,
Which-
probably half to show
Legal.
off
To
the
take
technical.
advantage of technical, yeah.
And
Yeah, well, I mean-
you can't use red slippers in your media because of
unless
that.
you're Stephen King.
Oh, I mean specifically these. If you're making
yeah.
Wizard of Oz, don't use red slippers.
Well, we'll come to that, yeah.
Yeah, you
But,
can. You're allowed strangely resembling red slippers or red high heels in some way, but as soon as they're explicitly from Oz, you're not allowed it.
Yeah.
You know.
But this is one of one of the earliest and kind of most kind of prominent, famous examples of that idea of, you go off to fancy adventure, but did it happen or not? Was it all in your head? Was it big old metaphor? I mean, Lewis Carroll's stuff was the same. Jane Barry, Peter Pan's quite similar as well in that regard.
Yeah. I mean, bearing in mind they're all writing these in the kind of the late 1880s, early 1900s, and obviously this is 39 as well. And even though Freud's kind of main stuff had come in the late 1910s, 1920s, psychoanalysis was still a thing. He didn't invent psychoanalysis. He was just a leading exponent of it. It was started to come around in the 1880s, 1890s, 1900s. It was a thing that was kicking around that he just kind of took up the mantle of and kind of pushed further and further. So there is a whole, I mean, the film is very much the whole thing of it's all in her head, because everyone that was in the Kansas plays the kind of representative characters here, and when we get to Return to Oz, a similar thing occurs. So the psychoanalytical aspect of kind of it's internalized as a dream of kind of finding your way out and coming to terms with real life is so blatant it's untrue, and that was just what was happening at the time. Obviously in 6 years' time Hitchcock makes a psychoanalysis movie of go into the dream and understand the symbols to stop a murderer. It's kicking around and it's becoming prevalent that now it's a thing. We'll do stuff with it.
Kieran, in the book, are they like she remarks on any of them looking similar to each other, or do you remember?
I read this 9 years ago. I can't remember. What I can remember is that the Wicked Witch of the West is in it for about 30 pages.
Yeah.
And she's in it the whole way through.
I think the character's been shared across the two worlds. That's the invention of the film, though not necessarily of this one, because the first one to do it was there was a silent one in I think
made by
1925.
Bond himself.
Yeah,
You can watch that all online, by the way. That and the tin version.
Yeah. The one from 1925 had the Scarecrow kind of character, appearing in both worlds, I think. But it was almost like, I seem to remember, it was almost like he's actively disguising himself, to fit into the other world. So he kind of knows that he's from Kansas, but goes to this fantasy world, but trying to blend in. So
it may not be that one, but L. Frank Baum did make. So he made one in 1910. There's a couple in 1914 and stuff like that.
Yeah, he died in 1920, I think. So he missed the major adaptations, but he was actively pursuing them. I mean, he created a company specifically to look after
and it lost money. That was the thing of
not only adaptation of his work, but kind of high quality kind of films for children, in general.
Yeah.
So
well, that was the thing with Baum in general, that he kind of did a lot of stuff and wasn't really successful at anything pretty much except the Oz stuff. That worked, and pretty much anything else he did, he kind of tried at, and if it wasn't an absolute disaster, it just wasn't incredible kind
Isn't
of
that
thing.
metaphorical?
So
I think he would have been perfectly comfortable in like a sideshow, wouldn't he? Just peddling his wares and real world kind of,
almost like a kind of carnival magician in some way, trying to be great. And okay, we'll come on to that later. But please.
I hate whimsy, and I love this movie. Like I was surprised how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and you just get the song stuck in your head, like if nothing else. And apparently Judy Garland kind of decades later. Well, apparently they needed to come up with the equivalent song for Over the Rainbow, and they couldn't come up with it. And there's two of them, one doing the lyrics and one doing the music. And they were driving around, and the guy doing the music, who I've forgotten now, just kind of had it in his head. And and essentially went to the other guy, please pull over. And they pulled over by a pharmacy kind of thing, literally in the middle of the street. And he got out a piece of like manuscript paper that he had in his pocket and wrote down the melody for it. It literally was a flash of inspiration. Apparently, decades later, Garland wrote him a thing going, I performed this like 1,000 times. Anywhere I go, people want me to sing Over the Rainbow. And she goes, it still hits exactly the same way as it did kind of the first time. And it hits everybody exactly the same. Because it is one of those kind of now immortal tunes, immortal songs kind of thing. And I think coming again on the eve of World War II, it is almost like in Britain we had Vera Lynn doing We'll Meet Again, which is a kind of World War II anthem for Britain. And I think this is very much an anthem for those times as well. That's kind of very prophetic in a way.
Yeah, I think you can kind of wheel it out when you just need a bit of positivity, a bit of kind of just hope, that your future might be a little bit brighter.
Yeah, it was again. I'd seen it years ago and kind of in passing, and I watched it again yesterday, and I'm like, yeah, this is a ridiculously good, well-made film. And I'm not one for whimsy all the time. I'm not one for. I enjoy musicals when I watch them, but I never go out and see I want to watch a musical kind of thing. And I'm like, I dig this because it's just fun, and sometimes you just want fun with a touch of evil, dark, flying monkeys and wicked witches killing shit. Although I will say, theoretically, Dorothy is the biggest murderer in the film.
Yes,
kills 2 people. Nobody else does.
One's manslaughter. They're both manslaughter, really.
Multiple murderer and assaults other people as well.
I was going to say, hits the Cowardly Lion. Like it's ridiculous. Yeah, Dorothy, Judy Garland is the biggest villain of the entire film. Changed my mind. In this TED Talk, I will.
Nice. Okay. Well, do we need to return or?
Yeah, 46 years later.
Yes, almost 5 decades later, they finally get around to doing a sort of follow-up, but not really.
Yeah, but they do it in a kind of way that, 2 years after this, if you've seen the Jan Svankmajer version of Alice, it's essentially a load of it is stop motion. It's all set in like a kind of a house with like rough floorboards and stuff like that. If you've seen the GIF of the toy rabbit with the giant scissors, that's from that. It's really weird and really kind of nightmare fuelish. What the hell is going on? Like, I watched it the first time and I'm like, this is a horror movie without being called a horror movie. I'm sorry. I know Sam has a childhood attachment to it, but it's bloody terrifying.
By the way, we have a comment from Amelia Loves Ariel. Thank you for watching and commenting. Israel is, I'm about to butcher this, Kamakawiwo'oli did a breathtaking version of Over the Rainbow. So that's Kamakawiwi.
The Hawaiian guy. That's great. Yeah, I'm sure it's been used in films before, but it's a really good cover version.
Go YouTube that after you watch us.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching, by the way.
But I mean, it's funny. I think you do tend to have affection for kind of films that kind of scarred you as a child. I mean, we've mentioned it before, Kieran, but Watership Down, seeing that too early is you're never the same, are you?
And I think the generation 1973 that had the Donald Pleasance water ghost thing, the Spirit of Dark and Lonely Water, the most terrifying commercial in history.
Oh yeah, the public information film.
Yeah, Jacob, if you haven't seen that, it's like 60 seconds. It is the most terrifying commercial of all time. I think it's the single most terrifying thing the British government has ever done, and that's by some margin. They just went, how do we scare kids from like playing near water? Let's make a public information film where Donald Pleasant's voice of like a faceless grim reaper voicing over like, I am the spirit of dark and lonely water. That child will drown at that pool there. ha 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 for like 60 seconds. It's terrifying. This is on a
Okay.
par with that. It's awful.
Yeah.
Our like this is your brain on drugs are a lot funnier.
It's not good.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So this was Walter Murch's only film as director? Question mark.
I don't know. I'm fairly sure it was his debut.
Yeah, I don't. I think
It's
I think
not
that's such a
listed
bad-
on his wiki at the top.
Yeah.
We'll put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, when you think of
I-
Walter Murch, you're going to go Ghost, Godfather, Godfather 2, Apocalypse Now, Cold Mountain.
Yeah.
This is not going to be up there.
Okay. So he sort of did a bit. Oh no, he's done. He's sort of done some. He's not been sole credits director since this, so I'm counting it.
Yeah.
But yes, so it came out in 1985, so a very different take. I think a lot of people say like probably a more faithful take on kind of the material from the books, but basically an amalgamation of a few disparate elements from like the following kind of books, after the first one. So even though Dorothy's much younger in this, it's set a year after the tornado. So
Yeah.
so a year after the tornado first carried her off from Kansas to the magical land of Oz. Dorothy is
Apparently,
now
Oz
about
has some age reduction powers going on here
Yeah,
somewhere.
yeah. Well, you say that apparently she does. She doesn't really age while she's in the land, but I think she goes back to the real world a few times, then ages rapidly, and then goes young again when she goes back to Oz. I think
This
I'm
is
sure I've
obviously
read
where
that.
C.S. Lewis got the idea from.
Yeah.
When they come back to the real world from Narnia as the kids.
Yes,
Big time
she's
stealer.
back. She's back in Kansas, and Dorothy Gale, now played by Fairuza Balk. She gets back to Oz to find it in ruins, and all her former companions missing. So, with the help of a talking chicken, a clockwork robot, and a pumpkin man, she must fight against Oz's dark new rulers, the Witch Mombi and the Gnome King. Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, this is a debate for you. Is this the darkest opening to a kids' movie ever?
I think it's one of the darkest kids' movies ever.
Yeah. Committing your niece to a sanatorium for electroshock therapy because she's got an active imagination. I mean,
I was going to say 10 years. This is obviously the 10-year anniversary remake of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, the first before you even get to Oz, which is essentially a post-apocalyptic Mad Max Wizard of Oz world. It is a straight up horror movie. The sanitarium stuff with the squeaky gurneys that's like coming up to.
A lot of
and
this is a horror movie. Not even just that.
I like Nicole Williamson's kind of line. I mean, how sinister a line can you get? It's like, I think I know just the thing to cheer Dorothy up. And then there's that lecture about, oh, doesn't my electroshock equipment look like a face? Look at the happy face and that tongue sticking out. It's like,
it's so not right.
Yeah. I mean, look, if Dorothy, a storm hits before the procedure starts, she runs off, falls to a river, and gets swept away to Oz. It's not really as explicit this time around that it's all in her head. She does seem to travel somewhere, although she does wake up at the end. So it's not kind of committing either way. I'd argue.
I disagree. I think it's very much committing to it being real. Just in the sense that she treats it like it's real, even though in the original she knows it's a dream. And I think it's her treatment of the matter that makes it what it is. Also, Amelia chimes in again. Speaking of horrifying childhood films, Christopher Lee voiced the villain in The Last Unicorn, King Haggard. Sam, did you catch that one?
I've never seen The Last Unicorn.
I think I've seen bits in passing. Now it's going on the list, obviously. Thank you for that.
No, it's certain,
we're suckers for Christopher Lee.
Yes, certain things do kind of pass me by, but I do remember seeing this one early.
Sam's the resident I watched movies from the 80s in my childhood guy, I think.
Yeah.
I didn't watch movies in my childhood guy.
We covered The Black Cauldron together, didn't we, Jacob?
I'm sure Labyrinth. You watched that as a kid. Dark Crystal.
I'm going to be
again. Dark Crystal was another weird one that passed me by. Actually,
I'm going to be a weird one. I've still yet to see Labyrinth, and I'm now kind of going to see how long I can go without seeing Labyrinth.
No, you got to see Labyrinth.
It was just one that, you know, there's just some films that I've just never got around to, and at a certain point, it's like I'm just going to see how far I can go. Again, Home Alone being the other one.
We got to plug the TFM article about David Bowie's bulging member in that film. Written by an alum.
Was it Who is Jareth and why does he have a massive package?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So this is the most British-looking Kansas I've ever seen. That's because it was all shot at Leavesden Studios. So.
Yeah,
and they don't even try and hide it. It's so obviously the shot in the woods on the outskirts of London.
Yeah, I mean, some of it works because it is meant to be like the post-apocalypse kind of thing. I mean, I described this to you that this is a rejected.
It's fine for Oz to look like the outskirts of London, don't get me wrong, but for the scenes at the beginning, it's still meant to be Kansas.
Yeah, that's not good. They literally pull into like a British country house as the sanatorium.
It looks like a TV movie, just overall. Even though it had a decent budget, which it did not make back, it does not look like it put that into sets and stuff.
No,
it was clearly the effects.
I'm not gonna. I wouldn't disparage the set design, but yeah, in terms of like what they could use in terms of like locations and things like that, and kind of what they're working with.
I thought the sets were just boring a lot of the time.
Because they did film the UK though, and obviously with Walter Murch's kind of close friendship, with George Lucas, they did end up using a lot of the same crew, as on the original Star Wars, so there was of that cross pollination there.
Despite the fact that Walter Murch did not work on Star Wars, he worked on Lucas's other two films, but not Star Wars.
Yeah, I know, but I suppose they shared if they were kind of close, kind of collaborators on other things, and
because it was
probably pre-apocalypse.
Yeah, well, it's the three of them at Mates University, wasn't it? It was Walter Murch, George Lucas, and Coppola.
I thought it was Mank. Not Mank. What's his name? The guy who was supposed to wrote Apocalypse Now. Milius.
Vaguely.
No?
John Milius.
Yeah, him.
Who then rendered to Conan.
But maybe it was Murch, but I thought it was Milius.
I think it was the three of them. Well, as far as I remember, that's what Walter Murch said when he came to my university. So
I mean, the stories on this about because it was having such a bad time of it, because everything was running over, they were going over budget, things weren't working out, and they had to kind of reconceive various scenes and cut other things out. He was consoled quite regularly by Lucas and Coppola over the phone.
This is what happens.
Basically, they both said, "Look, we've both had really shitty times, making movies over the years, but you will get through it. You'll be all right."
Have you seen One from the Heart, Walter?
I'm surprised he needed the consoling because obviously both him and Coppola are on Apocalypse Now. Like Walter Murch essentially came up with the first 5 minutes of Apocalypse Now from scraps he found in the bins because Coppola was just like, "Come up with something, see what you can do." I mean, you're saying about the sets looking boring. Inside, I think it looks fine. Outside, I think it kind of works with being dull because I described this as watching it today and going, "This is essentially a rejected Mad Max script," as a thing like that. Like the Wheelers. Especially with the masks on, if you shoved them in a Mad Max 80s Mad Max movie, would be exactly fine. There is no difference, and they are slightly terrifying because they've got like no hands and limbs. They are kind of they're a cross between something like Mad Max and the toys that Sid makes in the first Toy Story. You cross the two together, that's what these things are, and they're bloody terrifying. It's awful. It's creepy as hell. So I think like the outside sets, especially kind of the set for like the Emerald City and that, which looks like a rejected Disneyland that's been hit by a tornado.
Well, what I think about is like the attic or tower or whatever. Like it's a small space, and I know it's supposed to be the headroom. Like the only interesting thing is the heads. A lot of the palace is pretty drab.
Yeah, the production designer was Norman Reynolds, who worked on Star Wars and Raiders, and I think I think he brings a lot of that to this, and I think they're all, yeah, it doesn't look probably as expensive and glossy as it should do, but I think all the creative choices, design choices, they're all interesting. I mean, personally, I really want a TikTok, like life-size model, to stand in the corner of my room, keep watch over me. I think it's a great piece of design.
I think compared to like the character design is different from the sets and things like that. So I agree that the Wheelers are cool, and yeah, TikTok is an interesting piece of work. I personally hate a wind-up toy thing. This is the movie where my distaste for whimsy really starts to overpower.
I think the TikTok suit, I think it was just so not designed to have a person in it controlling it, that the guy actually operating. I think it's a stand basically upside down and can walk on his hands basically to actually fit inside the thing.
Let's be honest, I'm surprised it wasn't just like a remodeled R2D2.
Yeah.
Where they just change bits around and go, that'll do, put it on.
Yeah.
Kieran, by the way, you said Dorothy is the real villain. I think Amelia makes a compelling argument that it's actually Glinda, because she asks Dorothy about being a good witch or bad witch, and then says bad witches are ugly. So
yes, yeah.
But
it's not people's looks that are important; it's what's inside their hearts.
Well, and also she couldn't tell if this child was. Well, maybe it's good she's not judging the child's looks, but.
Again, another witch in this judges Dorothy on the looks. Says it's like, you could grow up to be quite pretty, not beautiful, but
I think I'll put you in a closet for a couple of years, and then I'll take your head.
Yeah. Let your head mature a bit.
And she also didn't tell Dorothy about the train, so.
No. I mean, so she has like kind of different companions in this, because obviously being a kind of an arts film, there's going to be like a traveling group of kind of misfits, and partly because of the specific books they're referencing, but also because of the copyright complications, of not being able to use those particular character designs. They've kind of come up with a whole new group to travel with Dorothy. So you got TikTok, the Clockwork Soldier, voiced by Tim Rose, aka Admiral Akbar.
Oh, Sam, I do think that these are the characters in Ozma of Oz.
Yeah. But the other kind of the characters from the first film, they're in it, but kind of only in very brief.
They look crappy.
I think they would have had a bigger role if it hadn't been less kind of.
So they had to change
Definitely.
So the copyright hit the designs for them. Did it hit the design for the Emerald City as well? Because the Emerald City looked crap. It's just a city that they've just. It's just like part of a theme park that they just made a little bit glitter in the background.
And Disney had to pay specifically to use the ruby slippers, for one moment, one scene, when the Gnome King reveals them.
That's why they went over budget.
No, I will say with this, actually, the stop motion for like the Gnome King stuff actually works.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's
great.
I like the gradual kind of peeling back the layers as it becomes more real. And the accent kind of comes forward, and the effects kind of dial back. But the gradual.
I think just because
is really effective.
Obviously, stop motion isn't 100% smooth. That's kind of the part of it, and I think that works with the kind of blocky rock kind of
rock
feel
people,
of it.
It
kind of like fits in just to the kind of very slightly stilted. Not all the time, admittedly, and you can still obviously tell that it's stop motion. But it's really nicely done. Stuff like that. I will give them that. Who did the stop motion for this?
With Jack and all the others, the puppetry and stop motion does not work for me as well, but. I mean, it's high quality. It's a taste thing.
But with Jack, it's a combination of techniques, because they have Brian Henson in as well. So I think he was part puppet as well as kind of other animation styles as well. So there is sometimes someone operating like a literal kind of life-size puppet as well as performance. So it's that blending of styles. I think.
For one of them, there was somebody in the suit too, but I can't remember if it was the robot or Jack.
I think TikTok is always a guy in it, and Jack is more of a combination. I don't know about the moose couch. I mean, it's probably just a puppet, I mean, he doesn't need to do much, does he? Just kind of shuffles around and moves his head occasionally. I mean, honestly, the elements in this, the kind of they pile up. It is literally like it feels like they've kind of been made up as they go along. But I think that's very much in the spirit of the Oz books. You know, it's
Yeah.
like they operate on like dream logic, don't they?
AKA no logic.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry,
Um,
I'm just trying to see if I can find out
Sam,
who did the stop motion.
what's your favorite aspect of this film? Because you said you loved it, and I think you liked it a bit more than me this time as well.
yeah, yeah. You know, I've like I said, I saw this very early in life, and I think I've had a lot of affection for it. I think I liked any kind of film that's supposed to be, was considered like suitable for me growing up. I thought, oh, this is a bit kind of scarier and kind of more disturbing than I was expecting. I think it's the, as Kieran says, if you kind of consider it basically a horror film, like they talk about like entry level horror films, and it's tonally, it is kind of structured that way, and it feels that way. It kind of puts you on edge, and everything feels like a little bit off, a little bit uncanny. But for me, I think it is like the production design in general. I mean, even if we say maybe the sets could look better, but I think they're all interesting concepts, and the way these kind of characters are kind of realized and brought to life. I think that's kind of the memorable kind of aspect of it, and I think because it's not a musical as well. It's like the performances that have to be a bit tonally different as the first film, but I think they all kind of
Definitely more
stand out.
serious.
Yeah, stand out
Yeah.
and do their job.
Yeah, I was going to say, I kind of missed the lack of musical numbers, but at the same time, I know why there was a lack of musical numbers. It's like, because I just watched the original the night before, I'm like, oh, the musical numbers back. Where is it? It's an Oz movie. Like, give me some of the dance routines. But then again, in the original, it's only been like 10 years since they got kind of, synchronized sound. So a lot of early cinema, they just shoved them in because they could. We now have sound. We can do these things. Let's go for it. Now they got the Mad Max version, probably not appropriate.
Yeah, and I had this quote from Jay Scott, who's a Canadian film critic, and he said, Dorothy's friends are as weird as her enemies, which is faithful to the original Oz books, but turns out not to be a virtue on film, where the eerie has a tendency to remain eerie no matter how often we're told it's not.
Yeah, I'll go for that.
And I would counter that with, is that a bad thing for this particular film? I think that's kind of almost part of the appeal, really. It's just a bit odd, it's just a bit out there, and I think if you kind of go to it saying, it's like a bit of a fever dream. It's a bit of a fever dream, just operate on that logic. Not everything's going to make sense. Just go with it. Just go with like the the madness and this. It's like odd take on like a traditional children's story, and I think you'll have a good time with it.
Yeah, the 80s did a thing of, are we going to say like dark, revisionist fairy tales kind of thing? Obviously, Labyrinth is weird. This is weird. Please check out Svankmeyer's Alice, because it's just slightly terrifying. He was a animated, a short kind of experimental animation guy before that, and then Alice was his first one, and it's just like somebody went and directed a 7-year-old around the house and animated everything in that's terrifying for the rest of it. It's so weird, and this feels like very similar to it, or Svankmeyer's will come after, but it's so weird and creepy.
Yeah. For me, it's just like, I don't know. I wasn't super engaged with it the whole time, and I really appreciate the headless horror scene, and the level of like skill it took, like Kieran last week with Malik. Like there's a definite level of competency to the effects, and it was nominated for an award and all that. But I don't really like how the story goes. I don't like the characters particularly. Like everything Sam loves about it, I'm just like, it feels like a Disney direct-to-video release.
Yeah.
I think Disney would allow them to go this dark if it wasn't done by Tim Burton.
But this was kind of the years of the wilderness in the wilderness for Disney, wasn't it? And they were struggling at this point to kind of find their footing, and they had to kind of go through like a few kind of disasters, financially, really, stuff that they put a lot of money into and didn't kind of pay dividends for them. I mean, the two adult actors, appear on like both kind of worlds. Gene Marsh and Nicole Williamson. I'd say that they both knew the assignment. I think they both pitch it about right. They just they kind of pantomime kind of love to hate kind of villains. I think they do a good job with it as well.
No, the thing with all the heads, I'll say, it seems weird that now this year, if anybody saw the Olympics, where they had Melvan Gajira playing on the conciergerie, and in all the windows they had opera singers as headless Marie Antoinettes, and for some reason they're just seeing all these heads in the class. I'm just like, oh my god, this is the Olympics. Is this meant to be like a Marie Antoinette thing with the headless kind of people swapping the head? I have no idea. It just seemed really weird.
By the way, did anyone get... so here's a fun thing about Ozma in the books. She was turned into a boy, and she's out looking for the lost princess Ozma and finds out that he is her. Did anybody get any kind of like queer implications from Dorothy grabbing her hands and pulling her through the glass portal?
I didn't, but I'm sure the LGBTQ plus community have taken that one to heart.
I was going to say, I got nothing from the original Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein, which is meant to be James Whale's gay allegory, but there's been 20,000 thesis texts written on that, so maybe I'm just blind.
Apparently the actress who played Ozma had to be dubbed because she sounded too British for this film.
We don't do that on this podcast.
He wasn't playing a villain, so.
Or a European.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Amelia, we actually did not watch Wicked yet, so we're just talking old Oz films in honor because.
Yeah. We will give the shout out that we do have the Wicked review up by Margaret Roherty, which went up on the 26th of November on the film magazine. Yep,
she saw it.
Yeah.
But the three of us have not seen it yet.
I will not give away the result. Yeah. I kind of half thought about going to it, and then I'm like, I might go see it after these because I'm not personally invested in Wicked. So there's no reason for me to go and see it. Now after this, I'm like, maybe I should. And I think it's obviously going to hit differently if you're a fan of the musical.
And knowing it's not connected helps me.
Yes. And it's probably going to be... quite a lot better than Oz the Great and Powerful, or it at least won't have the undertones that it is now taken on.
Well,
so without further ado, shall we?
Well, Amelia mentioned that too. She mentioned there's a hot air balloon scene in Wicked that's like trying to remind the audience. Oh, remember there were hot air balloons. I feel like that's what a lot of this movie is. Remember when this was in The Wizard of Oz? And
I was going to say, it's the legacy prequel that you didn't know you didn't want.
Unfortunately, like instantly. So I'm sitting with my wife and I'm like, we're going to watch a James Franco movie, which his comedies, like we'll still watch, like whatever those Seth Rogen movies are that he's in. This Is the End and The Interview, stuff like that. Like we always liked it. So Pineapple Express, we're gonna watch that. But he's still making movies. For people who don't know, James Franco, in 2014 was when things first came. So the year after this, a 17-year-old came out and said he was DMing her, and then in 2018, that's when things really kind of stuck for him. When people remembered that, but also students in his acting program, and I don't know if that was separate from, I think he taught at like UCLA or something. I don't know if it was related to his university work or if it was separate from that, but female students reported that they were given the implication that like sexual favors would lead to roles or taking their tops off in his movies, that kind of stuff. And it turns out, no, he's just a creep, and he's making movies. He's starring in them.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how well he plays kind of sleazebag kind of characters, for so long, and we didn't guess. Oh, maybe there's a reason for this.
Yeah, but the one
not acting.
The one thing I will say for him, though, is he is effortless. I don't particularly like him in this role. I read that Robert Downey Jr. was supposed to be cast, and I would have much preferred him in terms of performance, because Yeah, like he plays Tommy
But-
Wiseau. It's kind of the same way he plays this, and
Yeah. I mean, he's good as a charlatan. I think, as you say, he doesn't really need to try. It's just he fits into that mold real well.
Yeah. The trouble is, like, I was watching this and he seemed to almost be doing it on autopilot. There are times where I go, he works. There are times where I go, this acting is not great. And I'm not somebody that particularly picks up on performance or chemistry or anything like that. That's not something I normally click on when people go, "Oh, these two had great chemistry in this movie." I'm like, "Did they?" Like, it's not.
Mila
something
Kunis is so bad.
Yeah, it's like I want to know why. I was going to say I want to know why they picked Mila Kunis. I know why they picked Mila Kunis because you shot the name on the front, you're going to get another 500,000 people through the gates. But she's not. This is not her role. Like,
Yeah.
voicing the China girl, maybe.
When she goes proper full on witch with cackling and everything, I just can't. I just automatically see Meg from Family Guy too, in like Halloween costume.
Why didn't she change her voice?
Even not that. I just see Mila Kunis. It's some people have like an amorphous quality to them. She does not have it in this. But anyway,
I think Michelle Williams is better, but generally Michelle Williams tends to be the better thing in most things she's in.
Yeah.
Not say she's great in this. That Figure stretches her, but she's decent, I think, in the role.
Yeah.
I'm watching Dawson's Creek right now, so I'm very Michelle Williams.
Anyway, the plot of this film is essentially
real quick. Amelia also says, "Don't watch Wicked." It's a great musical, but a bad, a movie, and it didn't. It's an unneeded prequel. Left her feeling like it was unneeded. So. Okay. There you go.
Okay, Amelia, have you seen Oz the Great and Terrible, and which is the worst film? Because this, essentially, the plot of this, if you haven't seen it, is somebody went, what if everybody wanted to sleep with the Wizard of Oz?
Yeah.
Oh my God, let's make a movie out of that.
Apparently,
that's pretty much it.
And you know all these all powerful magic users who are always the strongest characters in every previous version of this story. What if they just bowed down and submitted to this guy because when he arrives, just because he can spin a bit of a tale?
Yeah. And that's the character in the original movie, right? That he's a charlatan, he's a scam artist, he's the guy behind the don't look at the man behind the curtain. We get that impression, and then he's like, okay, well, I'm out of here, goodbye, which is really funny at the end of that movie. Apparently, L. Frank Baum had a tough time with, is the wizard good? Is he bad? Is he neutral? And according to the fandom, that's something that changed over the course of his writing. And
this is a bit like Godzilla, which is he's good or bad depending on which book he's in.
Yeah. It's quite simple to that. Is he good or bad? Yes.
Yeah. Well, and so that the film tries to give you both. It's like, yeah, he does bad things, but deep down in his heart, James Franco's character is a good guy, and that's tough to buy in 2024.
I mean, you probably wouldn't have bought it in 2012 either.
Yeah. But even with the text of the film, it's telling us that he's really a good guy. But then we think, based on what? Have we seen any demonstration of that?
So here's what happens. It's the Wizard of Oz, but with the wizard instead of Dorothy. And it's him walking through. He's got to go kill a witch, and he needs to save Oz. I guess he doesn't have to kill a witch because, as they say, we don't kill.
But before the pot gather steam, obviously we've got to have the reference to the original MGM film, haven't we? We've got to have the start off in sepia,
in the original aspect ratio.
Yeah,
the box, yes. This does change aspect ratio.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I would say, this was very much in the a bit like Alice in Wonderland. It's very much in the midst of that. Everything's going to be in 3D at the moment, and a lot of the action cinematography is designed to take advantage of that. Which, to be fair, is probably one of the better examples of that, because Sam Raimi his camera work's pretty dynamic, and he knows how to direct an action scene.
I was going to say,
but it's not necessary.
No, I mean he's not the worst person ever to direct this, and near the end you do get some like weird, funky camera work. You're like, oh my god, this is some Evil Dead stuff coming back, weird.
Yeah,
like, almost crash
Rachel Weisz basically becomes a Deadite.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Basically, there's a really good action scene at the end, and that's about all that's worth it in this movie, in my opinion. Because
and it's not even a true Sam Raimi movie because there's no Oldsmobile anywhere to be seen. So
they didn't use any of the parts.
But there is a Bruce Campbell cameo.
Oh, is he? Where is he? Maybe I zoned out of that bit.
He's one of the guards, by the gates,
the
Winkies. Into the city. Yeah, the Winky guards. Yeah.
I will say, at least the Emerald City looks like the Emerald City in this, at least from like far away, in like mats and stuff. I will give it that.
I can see why they made this movie. They were probably like, oh yeah, we're just gonna keep cranking out Oz movies after this. Like, we got so many possibilities in here. We meet the China Doll people, who James Franco, he serves with no other reason than the goodness of his heart. He glues her leg back on with his magical glue.
That and to obviously give us a parallel with the kid who he couldn't fix her legs at the beginning of the movie. And now we can.
Yeah.
So obviously,
Well, again, characters, in both worlds. So she is the same. It's it's the same actress, playing both, just as you have Michelle Williams and Zach Braff. Yeah.
Well, yeah, he's mean to Zach Braff, but then he's nice to Monkey Zach Braff. He's cheating on Michelle Williams with various assistants, James Franco, and then Michelle Williams is the good witch in Oz. She's like the paramount of human being. Like, maybe witches are a different species, I don't know, but she is the paramount ethical figure in Oz.
Yeah.
Do witches work like the wizards in Lord of the Rings, that they're actually like Maynard or whatever it is?
Yeah, like, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. I'm not sure. But just as like Return to Oz, I think as we mentioned, it cost 28 million and only made 11 million back. This was a moderate success, so I'm kind of surprised that we haven't had more kind of Disney Oz films.
I think we know why we haven't had more Oz movies. It's because this was created.
Well, I don't get why they didn't just, if they were uncomfortable with James Franco in 2014, which I doubt it, they could have cast somebody else to play a different role, like. I'm also surprised they didn't keep going.
Yeah. I mean, that as well as the fact that this was essentially greenlit off the back of Alice in Wonderland making an absolute monster of a killing. It's like it was made for like 120 mil and made over $1 billion.
Yeah, and on back of that, it got a sequel pretty quickly afterwards. I'm surprised the same didn't happen with this.
Yeah. And also, Amelia chimes in again. I've seen Oz the Great and Powerful and Wicked, and I will say after seeing Wicked, The Wizard of Oz is now my favorite and only favorite film in the form. Oz the Great and Powerful was made strictly for stoners, for the visuals on drugs. In the light of this film is an amazing feast for the eyes.
I was going to say, it does look great, but that's about it.
It's really good looking, and especially because it's going up against, as we said earlier, one of the best looking films of all time. It lives up to the legacy visually.
Yeah, they at least went, let's just make everything saturated as hell and just run with color randomly out of nowhere. And also thank you, Amelia, for being the fourth podcast host. You are part of the team for this one. Thank you for that. It looks great, at least.
Okay, what's the worst scene? Can anyone top Mila Kunis's transformation scene?
Oh, man, that's exactly where my mind went.
Woman scorns. Oh, her tears are burning into her because witches and water. Oh no! And then I don't know. And of course she goes back. She eats an apple that will cure her or something.
Symbolism.
Oh no! Turns out it's cursing her. Disappear by the table. Okay, when's the hand coming up? There it is.
Yeah. There's the shadow. There's the shadow. I will say, just as bad as that is the scene where she first properly appears, where she's just kind of prowling around, giving like a Shakespearean political speech. for some reason, not using any magic, but trying to sway the hearts of the voters. Like, what the hell is going on here? You're the evil witch. You're not like
Yeah.
some second-rate
Yeah.
Shakespeare villain.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop talking.
Yeah.
Stop doing.
Yeah, it's just I don't know, just something about the font. I don't think we can blame her entirely. I think Raimi just didn't direct the character particularly well.
I think
Whereas-
it's just
but-
also written
but-
badly.
Whereas Rachel Weisz kind of works as sort of like a more Machiavellian kind of villain. She does a job, I suppose.
I'll
The,
go.
Other Wicked Witch, yeah.
I'll go
Yeah.
with the scene where he finds out Michelle Williams is the Good Witch. Like that is another like really drab location, and like I was not engaged by that scene. I feel like it should be a big deal, and it was really boring.
And what's the current gag? What's he keep calling her? Is it Wanda? Because he's a guy doesn't listen. It's just gonna keep.
And I will say, I think when Franco's acting is like the charlatan putting on his show, whether it's in Oz or wherever, like he does a good job at that. And I think he is able to do acting as a character really well, which is always a good element to be able to bring to a performance.
Yeah, an actor having to pretend that they're acting kind of thing. You got the multiple layers going on. Yeah, he's not awful at sometimes, but then there are other times where he just looks like he's phoning it in, and I'm like, could we not have got anybody else? Like, was there nobody else available instead of this? There are times where it works.
There wasn't.
Like, yeah, it's good, and there are other times where I'm like literally anybody else would have at least tried at this point.
Johnny Depp and RDJ were both busy. They could not do it. Amelia, by the way.
I don't think Johnny Depp would have done any better. I think he was well into his selling out for Disney stage at this point in his career.
Lone Ranger.
Jacob, you just made it sound like there are only 3 people in Hollywood. I go, was there nobody else available? And you go, no, because Johnny Depp
these are the 3 people they've announced were up for the role.
Yeah, so we can only have those 3. That's it.
Based on the information we have.
I tell you what, Bruce Campbell in this role would have been amazing. I would have killed for that. That's what I want.
By the way,
a great and powerful remake.
We learned at the end of Wizard of Oz, he says he's from Kansas, but then he stole his balloon from Omaha, Nebraska. And so I'm wondering why this film didn't go with, he was actually lying about being from Kansas when he talks to Dorothy, because that would be funnier.
He's a doctor as well, it's described at the start. So did he do his doctorate in Kansas? Like
he did it in Thinkology, so...
Like the entire thing is that like Toto, we're not in Kansas anymore, and at no point does he ever mention Kansas, which is just stupid and weird, and I don't get it, and I don't like the CGI in this movie, and there's a couple of good bits.
That's the background also when he's talking to Michelle Williams. There's a lot of bad green screen backgrounds in this, and I don't know why.
There's a lot of things I don't know why in this film.
Amelia's least favorite scene is Franco's magic act. There's a wire. Gets handed a deadly weapon. Whack. That is funny that they toss it to him.
And like the crowd coming forward, basically say, "Oh well, if you claim to be a real wizard, you must be Jesus. Cure this."
Obviously,
that bit is stupid, but I actually do like the cutting of the wires. Because that is a thing that you can do in kind of sleight of hand when you're constructing a magic routine, which is where you make something appear obvious that this is how it's done as a form of misdirection. So I do like that. That is a thing that magicians will kind of build into routines and acts every now and then. That's quite nice.
I mean, I get why you had to have that opening scene in black and white, kind of establishing the backstory before he goes on gets swept off to Oz. It didn't need to be 20 minutes, I don't think.
No,
I mean, I would say both this and Return to Oz they could probably both lose at least 15 minutes. They're just
I think.
I was going to say when the original when they tried to cut out Over the Rainbow, they should have had the same mentality with this. With that one joke about knocking when you're coming in, and then he tries to kiss her again, and he knocks again, and it's just like we don't need that joke. We can just do it the once. He goes, "You're on now. Go for it." Or we start with him coming on stage. Like,
I
don't
agree with the wire scene. Like I actually thought it was a fun twist to the trick, but it is ridiculous that they go, "Oh yeah, you are Jesus, so heal his leg."
that bit's stupid.
That is a good
that
point.
bit is only a setup for
But
the China girl.
It makes me like, one thing I had a problem with is I don't understand the powers that these witches have. Like that's one thing I wish they kind of would tell you a little bit, is what can they do and what can't they do, because
Yeah,
Oz is he doesn't have anything.
Yeah, kind of what the limitations. So like Glinda, she needs her wand to do her powers.
And she can do like a zap, but
yeah. Rachel Weisz, her gem thing keeps her young, but does that also help her cast her powers? And
what
as for
powers
Mila
does she
Kunis,
really have?
She can sort of fire stuff out of her hands always, but then
He turns into Palpatine for a bit.
Yeah, so yeah, who knows?
Yeah, it's just kind of plot convenience, or I don't know. Let's do this. And Amelia's pick for playing the wizard instead of James Franco. I don't know if she means Wolverine or Hugh Jackman. Probably Hugh Jackman.
No, I'll have Wolverine.
But Wolverine would be better.
Wolverine gets taken to Oz.
Logan plays the professor.
Yeah. I mean, basically, just make his, his greatest showman character. Just put him in a fancy setting. That would kind of work.
Yeah,
Yes.
But in order to convince everyone that he is actually a wizard, he has like the claws come out, kind of thing. I will take that.
I do think.
Actually, you know what? I tell you what, though. Genuinely, Ryan Reynolds would be good because he'd bring the comedy part to it. And you'd be expecting him to swear the entire time.
He seems smarmy.
Right, yeah, he can deceive people. I mean, Deadpool, that's the entire thing. He's just like living up behind a mask in a costume. He's got the comedic chops for it. Like, I wouldn't normally say it, but Ryan Reynolds would not be the worst pick in the world, because he's exactly the same character in every movie he's in, which is just him.
I ultimately do like that he has to go around doing like basically just normal Earth stuff to fix everybody's problems, and it makes him seem like a wizard. I think that concept is fun, and I enjoyed that he's like, oh, we're going to build a kinematograph or whatever, and he just, Thomas Edison, like, I want to be him, essentially. Like, oh yeah, you want to be a con man. That makes sense.
Yeah. I'll get this as well. I do miss old-fashioned title sequences. I like the the one they do with this, like the kind of it's almost like a shadow puppetry against the curtain, stage curtains kind of thing. I think it's quite a nice looking scene.
Almost like the kind with the swirling background, almost like kind of Tales of the Unknown or that kind of thing that you'd have for it. Yeah. There's some good ideas in this, and unfortunately, half the time they're just ideas that aren't actually done at all well.
Yeah, and like 1 out of 5 scenes, like you'll get, oh, it's Sam Raimi doing this. You'll be reminded, when it's like he does something stylistic and flashy, or just drops in some random horror imagery.
Yeah, random Zoom crash in the middle of nowhere. Yeah,
but generally, it's just really kind of uninspiring and
yeah. Who would we cast instead of Mila Kunis? Because in the nicest way to Mila Kunis, she was not right for this role.
Jennifer Lawrence.
It's like because you've got to be able to do the switch as well.
Yeah. Because I suppose at this stage she would still be youngish, wouldn't she? If we go so if it's like origin story of the.
I think Lawrence can handle both sides of it, and kind of a darker Jennifer Lawrence is fun.
Yeah.
Emma Stone, I think, would have pulled it off.
Yeah, and
because she can
would have been a big name.
Yeah, and
Jessica. I'm going to say Jessica Chastain.
That's fun too.
I'll take that. Yeah.
But can Mila Kunis do Ava?
Yeah. No, that's one of the things I also didn't like with this is the fact that he kind of lands within about 3 minutes. Mila Kunis is like, "I want to sleep with you," and it's like, this is what is this saying for feminism now? Like, is this meant to be? This is setting us back probably to the time of L. Frank Baum
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah.
This is not good.
Yeah, they literally do a shot for taking off her hat and shaking out her hair. You know?
Yeah.
Like
But then
time
and then
travel.
later she goes after she's eaten the apple. She's like, "You're the wicked witch. You've done this to me." But then she changes. It's like, "Nope, nope, nope. I'll ignore all that. It's all Oz's fault. I'm gonna kill him instead." You know, it's like, did you not miss the bit you said about 3 minutes ago? But you can remember to something you thought further back than that. Like, where is the? I blame the writers for a lot of this. I don't know who wrote it. Mitchell Kapner and David Lindsay Aber, which is weird because Lindsay Aber seems to have written quite a few theatre works that have done fairly well.
I
This
think
is not one of them. You should be shot for this. It's not good.
yeah. By the way, Amelia would cast Keira Knightley in Mila Kunis's role.
Actually, I can see that working real well. Yeah.
It's
Got a
better.
point. Or if Keira Knightley isn't available because she can do both, as shown a couple of years earlier, Natalie Portman. Because obviously, pretty much exactly the same character. With an American accent.
I
Swan,
think
she obviously did both sides.
Yeah, just cast them both, but like, just have them run with switch. You know,
One in the real world, one in Oz.
Yeah. Either that or one of them plays kind of after the evil side takes over and one plays before. But you put them down in the credits as both and don't say which one was playing which.
Yeah. It's definitely weird that people are so into the Wizard. But I do think that James Franco did a good job of like taking that bit of the character that's at the end of that movie and the writer too, like fleshing that out into something that can be in a feature film. Like it fits really well with the, oh yes, here's a diploma and here's a medal and oh, here's a little clock that here's just some junk that I have. Here you go. Now all your problems are solved.
In a weird way, there are parts of that which is kind of like the legacy sequel thing before the legacy sequel thing kicks in. That there are just tides over that is like,
Legacy
oh, yeah,
prequel.
this is an iconography from the original. We have to throw that in order to satisfy the customers, kind of thing. Right?
Well, and I think of like, okay, the Yellow Brick Road in Return looked like just such crap. Like they couldn't even make the bricks really gold. And then in this one,
well,
like
that was the Mad Max version, as I said.
but they could have at least like shown these are golden bricks, but instead they're like, we're just gonna use natural lighting. We're not even gonna try and like brighten this up in post or anything.
Because it's the Mad Max version.
That's what I don't enjoy. Like I get it's been torn up, but the bricks were a color. Like being pulled out of the ground doesn't change the color of the bricks, but whatever.
Well, I mean, there's no red brick road in this. She's going to paint it red with the blood of all the Munchkins, isn't she? And that's why we get the red brick road for Wizard of Oz.
Oh.
Although you never actually see it becoming red. So that was obviously for a sequel to this that was going to happen where a war takes place and it becomes red. I don't know. I haven't read the books. I've read the first one, so I don't know if that is explained or if that's a thing that happens in the later books.
Small thing.
Sounds like it. Sounds like Dario Argento's.
Saying it deep red.
Very small thing. The people in the Emerald City don't wear green like they do in the Wizard of Oz. So, like, did the wizard declare that he said everybody has to wear green, or I don't know.
I think in the books don't they wear green goggles, kind of as part of like his illusion here to make it seem like there are more emeralds than there actually are, and
I don't know.
I don't know.
In the movie, that everybody wears
the
green.
Gnome King is trying to take back stuff that aren't even emeralds at a certain point.
Yeah.
And Amelia, I do not remember Franco giving the old Tinkerman a Swiss Army knife, and I watched this yesterday. So
I vaguely remember that. Yeah, because
it's when his mechanism kind of goes on
dies the
fritz,
second time. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's going to unscrew something, so throws him his knife.
I just remembered who the Tinkerman was. He's the old guy.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Now. Okay. I still don't remember, but it's coming together.
Admittedly, I do think that one should live their life accumulating knowledge just in case a situation like this happens where you get transported to a backwards world where you have to like bring in kind of farming techniques and mining and smithing and technology and education and stuff, and you should accumulate knowledge throughout your life just in case that happens. And I think
Carry-
that's the way you
Carry
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
textbooks on
I-
irrigation in
I-
the refrigerator.
I would be screwed if this happened to me. I've got no practical skills.
Yeah.
No.
Well, there was a Dara O'Brien thing that goes, we think we'd be gods if we went back in time, but actually we're 3 questions away from looking like absolute idiots, you know. Somebody goes, what is that you have? And you go, well, this is a phone, you know, and it can access all the, you know, the music and technology of the world and stuff like that when you've got all these things. Cool. But it's dead at the moment. Cool. So how do we get it working again? We charge it up by plugging it into the wall. What happens there? Don't really know.
I don't know how anything works. Like,
No, it's like, what is this thing? Oh, it's a toaster. What does it do? Does it, you know, change the world? No, it just makes toast, you know. And how does it work? Yeah, we plug it into the wall again, you know. Still don't know what happens.
Earlier, we described the process for making Technicolor. I could not recreate it if I went to like the 1700s and they said, okay, make a camera. I'd be like, I don't know.
We have all these things, we don't know how to do them. Yeah, like how to get. Imagine trying to bring in like metal smithing. Like, you know, you get the metal from the ground somehow in rocks. I have no idea what rocks. I don't know how to then take it from the rock into the metal. I don't know these things. Like,
Yeah.
We should.
We don't know how to get the emeralds out.
Yeah, this is obviously the way education needs to go, and not into trying to make 3D effects for awful movies.
Or making it go in general. All right.
Yeah.
We, Amelia is leaving. Thank you for interacting with us. It feels nice.
Yes, thank you for sticking with our rambles. Sorry, my rambles.
Oh, I contributed to that one.
I mean, on that bombshell, I think we've kind of pretty much covered this, haven't we? You know, it's,
Yeah.
Yeah, this movie sucks.
I probably don't need to ask which was your favourite, which was your least favourite of the 3. Is the Great and Powerful all of our least favourites?
Yeah.
Yes.
And is the original?
Is the Wizard of Oz all of our favourites?
There you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ta-da! What a magic trick that was. We've peeled back the curtain.
Yep. All right. Well, we will be back next week with something else. But until then, guys, where can people find you?
You can find me at SSB Thinks Film and at Film Magazine, where I think it was this week I ranked all of Henry Selick's films. So check that out. Again, another childhood favourite. So, you know, making quite disturbing films for all ages.
Yep. Hopefully you don't find me anywhere. If you do, I'm K Judge Mantle on the various places. I have the review up on Film Magazine of Conclave. I think that's the one that came out a couple of days ago.
Which is awesome.
It is. Have you seen it now?
Yes.
It is so good. It is very good. Next day or 2, I will have a ranking again of childhood favourites of all the Wallace and Gromit films, because obviously Wallace and Gromit, and it's nearly Christmas, so yeah.
Oh no.
I just realized my mic's not on. Bella Madge wrote Judy Garland 3 career-defining performances. Go check that out. Joe wrote a 10 best Christmas short films. Check that out as well. And then you can find me at Jacob Film Guy. Anything I write is on the Film Magazine. Let's see. You need to follow us at Second Cut Pod. Email us at secondcutpod@gmail.com. You can also, down in the description, you can buy merch from the Film Magazine, support independent writers, or you could just give us money at PayPal, which is also down below.
But I will obviously say it's nearly Christmas, at least at the time of recording. So if you want your film Christmas gifts bought ahead of time, go to our stores and stuff like that and buy the merch and get your Christmas gifts already waiting.
Yes, alms for the poor. And that is it. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
There's no...
Said there's no place like home.